what if the very concept of improving yourself is just a complete illusion?
Right, like the whole framework is wrong.
Exactly. What if every self-improvement metric, every goal you have for personal growth actually has the entire nature of human existence completely backward?
It is a massive colon to start with.
It really is. Welcome to this deep dive, everyone. We are doing a full summary for the Simplified Summary YouTube channel today.
Yeah, and it's a profound one.
Oh, absolutely. Before we get into what might be, honestly, one of the most reality-bending philosophies we've ever covered, I want to ask a quick favor. If you enjoy unpacking these massive perspective-shifting ideas with us, please just take a second to hit subscribe and share this with someone who loves a good philosophical exploration.
It really helps the channel grow so we can keep bringing you these deep dives.
It truly does.
Well-
So today's mission, we are exploring the foundational philosophies found in volumes 1 and 3 of the complete works of Swami Vivekananda.
Which is just a treasure trove of thought.
Totally. And as you probably already know, setting the historical stage here, imagine Chicago, September 1893.
The world's parliament of religions.
Right. That event completely put Vivekananda on the map. I mean, we all know that famous image, right? The young monk in yellow robes taking the stage.
Delivering that legendary Sisters and Brothers of America opening.
Yeah, exactly. But what often gets overlooked in the mythology of that specific speech is the actual highly technical philosophical framework he was deploying.
Oh, for sure. He didn't just charm the room.
No, not at all. He presented a radical unifying charter of the Hindu faith.
And what's fascinating here is how he executed that charter. I mean, to that Victorian audience, Indian spirituality was very often viewed from the outside as this chaotic mix of contradictory sects.
Like a dozen different religions wearing a trench coat.
Huh, right. But Vivekananda took thousands of years of dense, diverse thought from dualism all the way to absolute non-dualism and synthesized it into a unified global message.
Which was incredibly disruptive.
Very. Especially to the Western theologians sitting right there in the room. Because he wasn't arguing for religious tolerance.
No, and that's a huge distinction.
Because tolerance is ultimately condescending, right?
Mm.
It implies that you are politely putting up with someone who you secretly believe is entirely fundamentally wrong.
Right, like, I'll let you do your thing, but you're still going to hell.
Exactly. Instead, he argued for the universal acceptance of all sincere religious paths. The idea that they are objectively true routes to the exact same ultimate goal.
Okay, let's unpack this difference between tolerance and acceptance. Because he used a very specific and honestly pretty humorous analogy a few days later to diagnose why everyone in that room was struggling to understand each other.
The frog in the well?
Yes, the story of the frog in the well. So he asks the audience to imagine this little frog that has lived its entire life at the bottom of a small well.
Just hanging out down there.
Right. It's born there, it eats the little worms, it gets sleek and fat, and it is perfectly content thinking its well is the entire universe.
Which makes sense from its perspective.
Exactly. And the disruption happens when a second frog, a frog who actually lives in the ocean, happens to fall into that exact same well.
And the well frog naturally asks the newcomer, where are you from?
And the sea frog replies, I'm from the sea.
So the well frog, whose entire paradigm of reality is made of these little brick walls, takes a little leap.
Right, a little hop, and asks, is your sea as big as my well?
To which the sea frog just laughs and says you can't possibly compare the vast ocean to a little well.
So the well frog takes a massive leap from one side of the well all the way to the other and asks, is your sea this big?
And when the sea frog again tells him it is a nonsense comparison, the well frog turns hostile.
He gets super defensive.
He declares that absolutely nothing can be bigger than his well. And the sea frog is clearly a liar who needs to be kicked out.
It's such a great visual for the listener because it diagnoses sectarianism perfectly. The Hindu is sitting in his own little well thinking it's the whole universe.
The Christian is sitting in her little well.
The Mohammedan in his... Everyone is sitting there, so confined by their own specific cultural conditioning that they view the ocean as an existential threat rather than just a broader truth.
Precisely. Vivekananda's entire mission was to dismantle the brickwork of those wells.
But to do that, he couldn't just play nice. He had to directly challenge the foundational assumptions of that Western audience.
Specifically, the deeply entrenched doctrine of original sin.
Oh man, yeah. The pervasive idea at the time was that human beings are inherently flawed, fallen, and just guilty from birth.
And he didn't just gently disagree with that doctrine. He completely flipped the script on them.
He really did. He quoted the ancient Vedic sages, calling humanity children of immortal
This is
bliss.
a powerful phrase.
But wait, let me play devil's advocate here for a second. You are standing in front of a Victorian-era, deeply traditional audience,
Right.
and you tell them they are not sinners, but rather divinities on earth. You call them lions who need to shake off the delusion that they are sheep.
It must have sounded absolutely heretical.
It's a massive psychological pivot. How did he even justify such a radical claim to that room?
Well, he justified it by attacking the very premise of what a human being actually is.
Okay, how so?
He boldly declared that it is a standing libel, an actual sin, to call a human being a sinner.
Wow. Turning the word sin back on them.
Exactly. He argued that the physical body, our flaws, our mortal mistakes, that is all just matter. And matter is our servant, not our master.
So if you identify with the physical body, sure, you're flawed.
But Vivekananda insisted that our true identity isn't the body. It is the uncreated soul.
Which brings us to a major focus in these volumes, the actual mechanics of that soul. I mean, if we are these infinite divinities, what does that mean for our timeline?
Especially regarding creation.
Right. If creation is an endless cycle, what exactly is the soul?
If we connect this to the bigger picture of Vedantic logic, Vivekananda uses a very precise deduction here. The prevailing Western thought was creation ex nihilo.
Meaning the soul was created out of nothing at a specific point in time, usually a birth.
Right. And Vivekananda points out a glaring logical flaw in that.
Which is?
Anything that is created in time is a compound. It is put together from parts.
Okay, that tracks.
And the inescapable law of the universe is that anything put together must eventually fall apart. It must undergo destruction.
So if the soul was created...
It must inevitably die.
Wow. So for the soul to be truly immortal, it couldn't possibly have a beginning.
Precisely. It was never created. It is infinite.
And once you accept that the soul has no beginning and no end, concepts like reincarnation and karma completely shift in their meaning.
They aren't cosmic punishments anymore.
Or some kind of divine point system where you get graded.
No, they are simply the soul's long educational journey, moving through different physical bodies and experiences until it fully realizes its own infinite nature.
Okay, to make this abstract concept relatable to the listener, he uses this brilliant analogy of a screen.
Oh, this is one of my favorites.
It's so good. Imagine a massive, breathtaking landscape right in front of you, just absolute beauty. But there's a giant, opaque screen placed directly between you and the scenery, completely blocking your view.
You can't see a thing.
Right. However, there is a tiny microscopic hole in that screen, and through that tiny hole, you can just barely catch a glimpse of the beauty behind it.
Just a fraction of it.
Over time, that hole begins to grow, and as it gets larger, you see more and more of the landscape. Finally, the screen vanishes entirely, and you are face to face with the unbroken scene.
That analogy is the absolute core of his teachings.
So break that down for us. What is the scenery?
The magnificent scenery is the soul itself, absolute, eternal knowledge, and infinite bliss.
And the screen?
The screen that hides it is what Vedanta calls Maya. Maya is the framework of time, space, and causation. It's basically the lens that fractures our perception of reality.
So we are looking through the tiny hole of Maya.
Yes, and here is where it gets highly counterintuitive for anyone obsessed with self-improvement or personal growth.
This is the mind-bending part.
He says we don't actually develop our souls. We don't grow them.
Right, because how can you improve something that is already infinite?
Exactly. The soul is already in a state of absolute perfection. All our ethical behavior, our meditation, our good actions, they do not change or upgrade the soul.
So what do?
They simply tear the screen. Every unselfish action, every ethical choice makes that hole in the screen a little bit bigger.
It thins out Maya.
Yes, so that your pre-existing perfection can just naturally shine through.
Wait, I have to stop you there. Let me push back on this.
Okay.
If my soul is already completely perfect and nothing I do actually improves it, what is the motivation for ethics?
That's the classic objection.
Right. Why not just sit on the couch and do nothing? If the perfection is already there, why bother being a good person?
Because sitting on the couch doing nothing or acting selfishly keeps the screen thick and opaque.
Ah!
And as long as that screen is there, as long as the hole is tiny, you experience misery. You experience limitation and fear. You suffer.
So the motivation for ethics isn't to earn some future reward.
No, it's to end your own suffering right now by removing the delusion of separation. Selfishness reinforces the illusion that you are an isolated, vulnerable fragment, Unselfishness shatters that illusion.
And as that screen tears, according to Vivekananda, we begin to experience the concept of Advaita, or monism.
The absolute oneness.
Right. You stop seeing the universe as millions of separate, disconnected objects, and you start experiencing it as a single, unbroken ocean of existence.
The Upanishadic phrase is Kativam Asi, thou art that.
Meaning, ultimately, there is no real boundary between you and me.
And this raises an important question, perhaps the most critical one for how we actually live our lives.
Which is?
If we are all truly one infinite being, who is there to hate?
Who is there to be jealous of?
Exactly. You cannot truly be jealous of yourself. Vivekananda argues that this realization of absolute oneness is the ultimate, the only logical foundation for universal ethics.
Because when you do good to others, you are quite literally doing good to yourself, since there is only one existence.
Yes. Punching someone else is metaphysically identical to punching yourself in the face.
I love that framing. Any idea of a separate, isolated ego, a me that is competing against a you, is just part of the delusion of the screen.
It's all Maya.
And when you reach that state, it changes the fundamental nature of love. The sources share this brilliant story about the ancient emperor, Yudhishthira.
Oh, the story in the Himalaya.
Yes. So Yudhishthira was known as the most righteous, virtuous king alive. Yet he is betrayed, driven out of his kingdom, and forced into exile in the freezing Himalayan mountains.
He's lost everything.
Everything. And his queen, who is shivering in the cold, asks him a very rational question. She says, "You are the most virtuous man alive. Why do you suffer so much? Why doesn't God reward your goodness?"
Which is what everyone in that situation would ask.
Right. But Yudhishthira doesn't offer some theological excuse about mysterious divine plans.
No, he doesn't.
He points to the towering Himalayas and says, "Behold, my queen, how grand and beautiful they are. I love them. They do not give me anything, but my nature is to love the grand, the beautiful, therefore I love them."
He loves them simply because they exist.
Exactly. He says, "Similarly, I love the Lord. I do not pray for anything. I cannot trade in love."
This is the highest form of religion in Vivekananda's view. Loving God or the universe for love's sake alone.
Yeah.
Without trading, without bargaining, without asking for any rewards.
It is a gorgeous sentiment, but let's be realistic here. Loving a majestic mountain is easy.
Sure.
Loving a beautiful sunset is easy. How does Vivekananda reconcile this universal love with the reality of human wickedness? How do you love someone who commits actual atrocities?
It requires an incredible shift in perspective. From the vantage point of Advaita, even the people society labels as wicked are not seen as condemned, irredeemable sinners.
So what are they?
They are simply our fellow passengers. They are stumbling blindly, sure, because their actions are dictated by incredibly thick screens of Maya. That screen obscures their vision of their own true nature.
But they are still the same uncreated soul underneath.
Exactly. They are inevitably moving in the exact same stream, heading toward the exact same ultimate freedom as the rest of us. They're just further behind in tearing their screen.
That requires a level of internal stillness that feels almost impossible in the modern world.
It's definitely not easy.
Which brings us to the practical application of all this. Because honestly, a lot of this sounds like you need to abandon society, move to a forest, and become a monk in a cave to achieve it.
And Vivekananda vehemently disagrees with that idea.
Really?
Yes. Here's where it gets really interesting. He insists this philosophy must be intensely practical for the everyday person.
Okay, how?
He argues that a true yogi isn't a hermit hiding from distractions in a quiet cave. A true yogi is someone who can stand right in the middle of a bustling, chaotic intersection. He specifically uses the example of Market Street.
Just amidst all the rush and carriages and noise.
Yes, standing right there and remaining as intensely calm and peaceful inside as if they were alone in a cave. It's about finding stillness in the chaos.
I'm going to push back on this again because the listener right now might be commuting to a highly demanding corporate job.
Right. They got deadlines.
In the modern economy, you are literally paid for results. You have KPIs, revenue targets, aggressive bosses. How do you practice Vivekananda's ideal of non-attachment to results when your entire livelihood depends on achieving specific material outcomes?
It's a vital question. But non-attachment doesn't mean non-participation. And it certainly doesn't mean doing a bad job or ignoring your KPIs.
So what does it mean in an office setting?
Vivekananda defines true practical religion as finding the greatest rest in the very midst of intense activity. And this happens when we act without attachment to the results.
By severing the ego's addiction to the outcome.
Exactly. You still aim for the target. You still do the work with maximum energy. But you do not let your internal state be destroyed if you fail, or artificially inflated if you succeed.
You work for the absolute sake of the work.
Yes. When your identity isn't held hostage by the results, you achieve a state of infinite rest side by side with infinite action.
You decouple your self-worth from the external metric.
Precisely.
And that detachment brings us to the defining word of the Upanishads. Vivekananda says if you had to distill all of ancient Indian philosophy down to one single word, it would be strength.
In Sanskrit, which translates to fearless.
Fearless. He teaches that weakness is the root cause of all misery and all sin.
And to illustrate this ultimate fearlessness, he shares this incredible historical encounter between Alexander the Great and a naked Indian sannyasin, a monk deep in the forest.
This is such a great story. Set the scene for us.
So Alexander, the conqueror of the known world, a man who is entirely used to kings literally groveling at his feet, stands before this old monk sitting calmly on a stone.
And Alexander is so struck by the monk's wisdom that he offers him immense wealth and honor. Just gold and riches if he will travel back to Greece with him.
And the monk just smiles at the gold and flatly refuses.
Which Alexander's not used to.
Not at all. Alexander, completely unaccustomed to hearing the word no, flies into a rage. He stands on his immense authority and threatens the monk. He says, "I will kill you if you do not come."
And the monk's reaction is legendary. He doesn't cower.
No, he bursts out laughing.
He looks at the most powerful man on the planet and laughs.
And he says, "You never told such a falsehood in your life. Who can kill me? Me you kill, emperor of the material world. Never. For I am spirit unborn and undecaying."
And then he adds the best part.
"You kill me, child that you are."
Child that you are. He essentially pats the conqueror of the world on the head.
So what does this all mean for us? It means we must, in Vivekananda's phrasing, die game.
Die game. Meaning what?
It is a demand for absolute, unshakable courage. We must refuse to bend the knee to superstition, to societal pressures, and above all, to our own internal anxieties and fears.
Because weakness is the real cause of misery.
Exactly. The monk was speaking from the direct realization that he is the uncreated, infinite soul. Recognizing that you are not the fragile, temporary physical body is the ultimate, inexhaustible force of strength.
It instantly neutralizes the fear of death, the fear of failure, and the anxiety of what others think of you.
It completely reframes reality.
It's an incredibly empowering framework. We've navigated some massive concepts today. We started with the frog in the well, looking at the danger of trapping ourselves in narrow, sectarian worldviews.
Breaking down those brick walls.
Right. We examined the profound psychological shift of viewing humanity not as fallen sinners, but as children of immortal bliss. We visualized the screen of Maya, understanding that personal growth isn't about adding to the soul, but uncovering the perfection that's already there.
We also explored the radical empathy of Advaita, the idea that the universe is one unbroken ocean of existence, meaning every act of kindness to another is quite literally an act of kindness to yourself.
We saw the ideal of loving the mountains purely for their beauty, love for love's sake alone.
And we learned that true spiritual strength isn't retreating to a quiet cave, but maintaining absolute stillness right in the chaos of Market Street.
And finally, laughing in the face of fear like that ancient monk, child that you are.
It's a lot to take in, but it's deeply practical.
And the most crucial operational takeaway from all of this is Vivekananda's insistence that you do not need to look outside yourself to find this truth.
Exactly. All knowledge is already inside you. He compares the human mind to a piece of flint, and knowledge to the fire hidden inside it.
I love this metaphor.
Every experience you have, every promotion, every heartbreak, every mundane Tuesday is just a blow striking that piece of flint. The friction of your life is simply creating the spark that reveals the fire you already possess.
You are just uncovering your own innate omniscience.
You already have the fire.
Which leaves us with a provocative thought to explore on your own long after this deep dive ends. We've talked extensively about Maya, the illusion of separation, but think about the architecture of our modern digital world.
Oh, that's an interesting angle.
We spend hours every day in algorithmic echo chambers, right?
Right.
Curating these hyper-specific digital identities, essentially building our own custom, inescapable wells.
We're all digital frogs in our own wells.
Exactly. If Vivekananda is right, and extreme individuality and separation are just the thickest layers of illusion, are our modern technologies actually engineering an entirely new, thicker screen of Maya? Are we using our greatest advancements simply to build higher walls around our own separate little wells?
That is definitely something to think about.
Something to mull over as you navigate the digital noise this week. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive. Until next time.